Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and much appreciated you guys checking today's video out and spending some time with me. And today I'm going to give a sort of a tutorial seminar on how to locate bass during the springtime of the year. This is probably everybody's favorite time of year. The fishing's the best this time of year. There's more fish shallow than ever. They're biting for the most part. It's just a great time to be out there. So we've got some good juice to pass along to you guys in today's video. Also, guys, for get started, just our daily housekeeping tip here. Just want to invite everybody to please consider hitting that subscribe button here to Advanced Bass Fishing. Free and easy to do so. We also have channel memberships and Patreon memberships to Advanced Bass Fishing. You can do that by just going into my channel description and check it out there. And also, guys, if you're ready to stock up for spring fishing, no better way to do it than to use and click on my tackle warehouse link in the description of this video. They got a bunch of good sales going on right now. And thank you very much for me and my family if you've been one of the people that have been doing that. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about how to locate them during the springtime of the year. Now, first of all, one of the keys to finding bass in the spring is you have to realize there's three distinct seasons within the spring season. You have the pre-spawn period and the spawn period and the post-spawn period, and they're all lumped up in the springtime of the year. Probably the most complex time of year to fish in terms of what the bass, how they move and how they change, and their moods and personalities. And for the most part, the pre-spawn occurs pretty much anytime the water temperature is between 50 to 60 degrees. The actual spawn period is usually between, say 60 to 70 degrees. And the post-spawn generally is when that water temperature gets above 70 degrees. And it depends on your geographical location, obviously. Now you can add or subtract a few degrees based upon if you're north or south, but like in my part of the country, Missouri, all the way through Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, all the mid part of the country, that's pretty much the baseline to go by with that. And the fish are going to be in different places on every different stage of the spawn there. Okay, so the first thing, let's talk a little bit about where to look for them during the pre-spawn period of the year. Now, there's going to be two different type of deals there based upon if it's a grass lake or not a grass lake. If you fish on a grass lake, which probably not as many of you guys do, but I'll throw it out there real quick. The best places to fish on a grass lake are those grass flats that are positioned somewhat close to spawning bays or spawning coves. So when you try to find a grass bed, say like if you're fishing Lake Gunnersville, for example, try to get on those flats that have some type of proximity to where those fish are going to want to spawn at. And usually the grass beds out in front of those particular spawning bays are going to be the best places for that. Now during the pre-spawn over grass, slow rolling spinnerbait, a lipless crankbait is going to be good, a crankbait, slow rolling, chatterbait through there, anything that you can fish over the top of the grass. Now the pre-spawn in the man-made impoundments, the typical man-made impoundments, we've talked about this heavily a lot on my channels the last couple months. You want to be in those particular type of areas that are pre-spawn, again, closer to spawning areas, but they're going to be more of a steeper rock or a rock transition. So again, my favorite areas to look for when I'm looking for pre-spawn bass in a man-made lake is steeper rocky banks. I mean, that's where those fish like to live at. Bluffy banks, channel banks, anything that's got like a 45-degree angle or a 60-degree angle bank to it is going to be really, really good. Paralleling those areas with a crankbait, throwing a jerkbait on them, an Alabama rig is a good way to catch them. Also, during the pre-spawn, sometimes those fish, based upon the structure that you have in the lake, they may be on a little bit flatter banks closer to the spawning areas if you don't have a lot of steep banks. Now, let's say, for example, if you fish a lake like Lake Eufaula in Alabama, that's not a steep lake, that's not a mountain lake, it's a lowland impoundment, and you're not going to have many steep rocky banks there. So a lot of times those fish will be on those flatter banks, but nearby to those spawning areas too. So that's a good way to look for them there. And again, the same type of deals, lipless crankbaits, swing head jigs can work pretty good sometimes. But when you're talking about finding bass in the spring during the pre-spawn, just think about those areas that are close to the spawning areas, but are not the spawning areas. That's usually where those fish are going to hang out at. Now, during the spawn, when the water's, 60 degrees, 65 degrees, that's the easiest time of year to find them. You have to get in protected areas, protected coves, protected banks, usually areas that have a harder bottom, like a rocky or gravel bottom is going to be a little bit better. But you want to get into those areas that are protected by the wind. And they can be on any side of the lake. A lot of people say, oh, you need to fish the north side or south side or whatever. I haven't found that to be true. Fish will spawn on any protected area in the lake as long as it has the suitable bank angle and the suitable type of a bottom on there. Now, obviously, it's not the more open that an area is, as far as the more that it's less that it's protected from wind, then those areas aren't going to be quite as good. But that's going to be the main type of areas those fish look for. They're looking for, areas that are going to be conducive to the beds that they build, getting enough sunlight in it. So the water clarity is going to depend a lot about the depth that they bed at. In a clear water lake, they can bed down into 10 or 15 feet of water. Muddy water lake, they're going to be in less than 3 foot of water. So that's a really good indication with that. And another thing about catching bass during the time that they're spawning, not all of them are spawning at the same time when they are in those areas. Some of them are cruising, some of them are looking for the bed, some of them are nesting, some of them are building beds, some of them are garden fry. They're just up there, and not all of them are involved in the spawning process. And in clear water situation, you'll be able to see bass swimming everywhere in those areas in the springtime of the year when the fish are bedding. So there's just a lot of activity going on with that. But in the spring, when they're spawning, you want to get away from your moving baits. You want to throw the bottom baits like a shaky head, drop shot, a Ned rig, a jig, a Texas rig. Probably some of my favorite two baits are a wacky rig, like a wacky rig soft plastic stick bait, or a Texas rig lizard, or a Texas rig tube. Those are really good areas for fishing, during that particular period. Now, after those fish get done spawning, once that water temperature reaches about 70 degrees, a lot of those fish are going to hang out in those spawning coves for longer than what you think, but they back out a little bit deeper. So one of my favorite ways to catch them during the post-spawn is I go into the same areas where the fish have been spawning, and I simply back out and fish deeper. So if those fish were bedding up in 3 or 4 foot of water, I'll back off into 8 or 10 or 15 feet of water on the same banks, and I'll cast like a Carolina rig, a football head jig, a swing head jig, something slow on the bottom. Usually can pick up some fish like that. A shaky head's really good. Walking topwater is another good bait. If you have clear water, you can get on those same type of areas and throw walking topwater and catch them. And don't ever pass up secondary points in the post spawn. One of the first places that they go to after they actually get done spawning is the nearest secondary point close to where they've been spawning at. And they will sit there and stage and feed for sometimes over a month. It can be good up into early summer. So try getting out there on those secondary points after that water temperature gets about 70. Throw a topwater, throw a deep diving crankbait, throw a football head jig, throw a swing head jig. Try to target, the depth relative to the water clarity again, usually between 5 to 20 foot of water, and it's a really good way to catch them. So anyway, guys, that's just a real basic foundational approach to it that works pretty good to me. Obviously, every lake is unique to itself, so the lake that you fish may have some, unique characteristics that you have to adjust to, but overall, that's some things that have really produced well for me in the past. So anyway, I hope it helps you guys catch a few, and we'll talk later.